Hi everyone, I'm your fave nurse B. Thanks for coming back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing an interview with Dr. Miller from Starter Nurse Academy. She is a nurse educator and also a nurse career coach. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm super excited. My name is Dr. Miller. I am a PhD prepared nurse practitioner and nurse, and I've been working in nursing for about 14 years. So I've worked everything from peds to PICU to adult ICU, adult med surg, and about half of that time I've spent teaching nursing students and teaching new grads. So I have a really good idea of what nursing students need to do to prepare for transition to practice, and also what kind of issues and difficulties new graduate nurses experience as they transition to practice. So I'm happy to be here and give your followers some content.
Yes, I'm super glad because she specializes in something I know nothing about, basically getting yourself into the workforce. Because, I mean, you can get through nursing school, but if you can't market yourself and get out there and get the job that you want, what's the point, right?
Yes, but
So
if they need to
today,
get through nursing school, they should go to you.
right.
Because all of my stuff is more career development, professional development. That's what Starter Nurse Academy is about. I intentionally do not touch on any kind of actual nursing topics like cardiac, respiratory, or how you have those wonderful notes. Shout out to your notes. But I just keep everything more, it's all professional development. So critical thinking, time management, stress management, interviewing, and resumes. That's my specialty.
Perfect. And don't you also help nurses to create like a side hustle outside of nursing as well?
Yes. So I have Starter Nurse Academy, and that company is fully dedicated to new grads and senior nursing students. But then I have my own Instagram, which is Dr. Miller Nurse Coach, and I do career coaching. So I help new grads transition to the bedside and help experienced nurses transition out, and everybody in between. And a lot of times that includes trying to help them figure out their side hustle. So I tell nursing students and new grads to start now thinking about their side hustles and what kind of things they can actually do in the future.
Okay.
How about resumes? Resumes is always a tricky topic. So let's talk about resumes.
All right. So, what are some tips that you have for people who don't really have the experience with in healthcare and they need to build up a resume?
Yes, I see this a lot. And what I often see new grads do is they'll try to fill up the resume and like fluff it up. And they'll try to put like all of their clinical stuff and everything because they feel so compelled to make it stretch to one page. But nurse managers and HR recruiters can see right through that fluff. And if you're a new grad student, a new grad nurse, you got to think about the fact that if you're applying to a new grad residency program, right, with other new grads, then they're not really expecting you guys to have a whole plethora of experience. And it's not your experience that's necessarily going to make or break how you get this job. It's your resume first that will get you called back. And then it's your interviewing skills. And we can talk about that later. So the first question I almost always get is whether or not you should include your clinicals. And I always answer this with a yes and a no. So the first reason why I say, I know, but I'm breaking down for you. The reason why I say no is because everybody has done clinicals, right? So if you saw a new grad nurse and they hit the floor, don't you know they had med surg clinicals? They had, labor and delivery clinicals. And what do you think they did at clinicals? They did the same thing we all did at clinicals,
Right.
right? So it becomes a little redundant when your entire resume is just filled with your clinical experience. However, times when it may be beneficial to highlight it is when it's relevant to the job. So for example, I'm a peds nurse practitioner. I'm a peds nurse. I started new grad on the regular general peds floor. So maybe I would highlight my peds clinical. What if I did clinicals at the hospital that I was actually applying to? Then I would definitely want to highlight that, right? So I think there are circumstances where you do want to highlight your clinicals, but I wouldn't recommend putting them all. We don't need to know you took fundamentals and med surg, and you know what I mean? It's like I would recommend probably putting the clinical that best highlights the position that you're looking for. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Definitely.
Okay, so another thing I often see is that new grads tend, and people in general actually, tend to tell. So they give a laundry list of characteristics that they feel describe them. I am, a team oriented, detail oriented. I'm a team player. I'm compassionate. And it's like yawn, right? Because everybody's going to have that on their resume and cover letter, especially new grads, because they don't really have a lot of experience to put in there, right? So what you want to do is you want to show and not just tell, right? So you don't want to just give us a laundry list of all these attributes and characteristics. You want to show that you have those characteristics by listing some of the background and experiences that you've had. And so that's kind of how you want, and there's a way to do that. And I know that is tricky. So we can't go into detail with all that, but you want to show and not tell. So that's the same thing for your cover letter. You don't want to just make your whole cover letter where you're just typing up I am awesome, basically paragraph after paragraph of I am awesome. It needs to be I am awesome. This is what I did, and this was the outcome. So that's what makes me awesome, and then the third thing, before I get to the third thing, so I have, as part of Starter Nurse Academy, I have a complete resume workshop. It's an online virtual workshop that I did live, but you can purchase the replay. And in that workshop, I go in detail about how to show and not tell, and what kind of activities from nursing school you can include to highlight those skills instead of just telling. However, that brings me to the point before we jump to number 3, which is that you have to be active. So you have to be doing things outside of just nursing school. You can't just go to class, get a 4.0, and then, graduate like hire me. I'm a 4.0 student, because someone else who could be a 2.9 student, but has demonstrated leadership skills being in their sorority, or organized a fundraiser, or did a walk or a homeless drive, or was a research assistant, that student is going to look much more attractive to the nurse manager than 4.0. And I've been a CNA for 10 years and I have a 4.0. Okay, well, so it really depends on the hospital also. But if you are applying to magnet status facilities, large teaching hospitals, competitive new grad residency programs, then you have to be doing things now as a nursing student to be active. Now, what if it's too late? If it's too late, you got to think about your career as a long-term trajectory, right? Think about your career as a long-term trajectory. So let's say you weren't that active in nursing school, right? But you're thinking about you're going to have a career for the next 30 or 40 years. So once you get that first new grad job, you need to be active outside of work, so that when you're applying for the next stage in your career, you're not in the same position. Okay. So sometimes we a senior nursing student, we looked up and we like, damn, I don't have any extracurricular activities, right? But now you need to think ahead that at some point you might want to go back to grad school, or move to a bigger, better hospital, right? Or move into an educator role or a different role. And hopefully you've been doing things that are going to make you a more competitive applicant than someone else who just has the same 5 years experience at the bedside, but they haven't done anything.
But I did want to ask a question though. Okay. So could that just be something as simple as, like you said, community outreach, volunteering? Maybe if you started something like at your church or something like that was around healthcare, could it just be something simple? Because I think people might think it's so big.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. You want to piggyback for what you already have an interest in or connections in. So let's say you're really active at the church. You nursing student, junior, senior nursing student, you organize a health drive at your church. You bring your fellow nursing students and talk to your nursing instructor. They'll probably help you too. And you guys do blood pressures and things like that. And then you do this every year, let's say. So you want to find your lane, and the easiest lane to move into is a lane where you already have connections, already have a talent or skill, already have an interest. So if you're into blogging, start your YouTube channel, right? While you're in nursing school. You see what happened with Nurse Blake? He blew up before he even graduated, right? So you just have to find your thing that makes you most interesting. And when we talk about interviewing, we'll talk about how to infuse that in. But the first step is the resume, right? It's like your dating profile, I always say. Mm-hmm. It's your dating profile. So we're going to look at your dating profile real quick and swipe one way or the other. So I need something interesting. Like, oh,
Right.
y'all got the same thing. Y'all all new grads with 4.0. So what makes you interesting is the key. And then the third tip I was going to give you for resumes is to quantify whenever possible. So let's say you did that health fair at your church. You want to say, how many clients did you service? Let's say you did a fundraiser. How much money did you raise? If you are going to include your clinicals, how many hours did you do? So you want to quantify whenever possible, and that kind of shows that your work is attached to outcomes and gives them a better idea of who you are.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a
Yeah,
good tip.
yeah.
Because it just paints a picture, you know, it seemed like.
Yeah, you got to be interesting. You got to be, you know what I mean? Like, it's just that they don't realize that when we're on this side and we're interviewing and we're seeing resume after resume and candidate after candidate, and they're all boring. They're all the same. But when we get a candidate that has some life, that has some different kind of experiences, that's when we get excited, especially like I said, for those magnet status facilities, because they're going to want a nurse that's going to take some initiative. Like I worked at UCLA in LA. It's like number 5 in the nation or something like that. That is a highly competitive program to get into. They don't care, you know, they don't want to just hire anybody. They want to hire somebody who, and I did my PhD there. They want to accept somebody. It's the same thing being a competitive candidate who has a story, who has an interest, who's taken initiative, who's been a leader, because they realize that's the bigger part of nursing. Your CNA experience, that's great, but like, okay, we can teach you the skills, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
so just
I
think
think
about
people
that.
don't realize it's another person on the other end looking at the resume. It's not
Yes,
just a computer
it's
just taking
somebody
the
like
information.
me. And I'm yawning. Let me guess, you're detail oriented. Okay. You know what I mean? And then I see that person that's done like missions work, or they were, you know, lead of their sorority and they organized a 5K fundraiser. And so it doesn't have to be huge, but it's something that lets you stand out. And like I said, if you haven't done it, don't be discouraged. But also don't be in this position again 3, 5, 10 years from now. This is really your only chance to come out with nothing. You know what I mean? Anything else, when you go to math, when you go to the master's program, or you trying to change positions, any other thing that you elevate, they're going to expect to see something. So this is really your last chance to like not have a whole lot on the resume.
I didn't even think about that. Wow. Good thing I'm doing YouTube.
Yeah, right.
That's
See,
something.
so if you're good at this, do this. Like this could be
Right.
a side hustle.
All right, you all. So those are Dr. Miller's 3 tips for building your resume for new grads. Go ahead and go check out her IG, and also check her out on IG for Starter Nurse Academy. So Dr. Miller is giving away a discount for my viewers, which is super awesome. So go check out her IG. She has some resume workshops. She has an interview workshop. She also has some ebooks as well, and she does help with resumes one-on-one, and she offers coaching to new grads as well. So she has a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. And I don't really know if I stated it early in the video, but she lives in Cali. She's in Cali. So she knows what she's talking about, how to get through that competitive job market. So go ahead and go check her out on Instagram. I'll leave all her information in the description box. Any questions you have for Dr. Miller down in the comment section. As always, thank you all for watching. Peace.